Good afternoon. Hope you're having a great day. So, there's new headlines breaking. I didn't even know anyone watches the Oscars anymore, by the way, but I guess people do. And if they didn't, they're definitely hearing about it this morning. We're dealing with crises in Ukraine. There's inflation going on. And here we are speaking about Will Smith and Chris Rock. If you haven't heard the story, I guess yesterday at the Oscars, Chris Rock, who was the host, was introducing or saying something about Will Smith, and he made fun of his wife. Now, Will Smith's wife is bald because she has an ailment which is called alopecia, which doesn't allow you to grow hair on your head. And Chris Rock must have made a joke that I did not watch, and Will Smith got up and slapped him across the face, and then let out a tirade of words, cursing, etc., etc. And everyone's up in arms. How could you make a joke about someone who suffers from an ailment and using violence? And should he be charged or should he not be charged? So I just want to say a few things here. First of all, no one condones violence, of course. And no one should ever raise their hand. And I understand that Will Smith did apologize. Should he be charged or not? That's for authorities. Was the joke in poor taste? Of course it was in poor taste. How could you make fun of something that someone suffers from, especially on public stage? But I want to say something else. It's ironic because yesterday my whole Dvar Torah was about this week's Torah portion, which is the Torah portion of Tazria, which means to give birth. And part of what it speaks about in this week's Torah portion is negative speech and the impact that negative speech has on those around us. And here, as we're studying this week's Torah portion, we see in live action on TVs all over the world the impact that negative speech had on the person who said it and on the person that it was said about and what it triggered within them. You see, the rabbis ask us, why is the Torah portion called Tazria, which means to give birth, if it primarily speaks about the laws of leprosy, which was an ailment you got because you spoke negative? And the rabbis tell us something very powerful. You see, there's three primary ways we connect with the world and with ourselves. There's thought, there's speech, and there's action. Speech and action are the two extremes. I mean, thought and action. Thought is totally introvert. It's all about you. I could be standing next to you and thinking about something. You'll never know what I thought about. It's all internal. Action is all external. It's all about the things I do outside of myself to connect with others. Even when I'm doing something for myself, it's external because it's how I want to connect myself outside of myself. So you have on one side thought, which is totally internal. You have on the other side action, which is totally external. And then you have speech. Speech is the middle. It's the conduit. It's what allows our thoughts and our internal to express and become external. Thought is what connects. Speech is what connects our action and our thought. And that's why it's so critical. Because the words we use are not just words. They're words that create. And as I mentioned yesterday, God created the world with speech. And that's why we're called the human beings that speak, because our power is to create through action. And that's why this Torah portion is called Tazria, which speaks about birthing. Before we go on to speak about gossip and the negative action of bad talk. Because the Torah wants to tell us first and foremost why God gave us speech. Through speech we birth, we create positive energy, we create unity, we create love. That's the real reason God gave speech into this world. So the first thing we establish in the name of the portion is Tazria, to give birth. We're speaking about speech. We're speaking about the human species that has the power to speak just like God, and through its speech to create. then the Torah warns us. God's giving us a double-edged sword. The power of speech is great, but it's always also dangerous. And therefore we go from Tazria, from speaking about birthing and creating positive energy, unity, love, happiness, to speak about the negative impact. You know, think about things that unite us. Think about the Oscars. It's supposed to be a night to celebrate things that gave people joy throughout the year. If it was watching a movie or a documentary or whatever it might be. And think how that same speech could be turned into something of so much pain. Laughing at someone who has an ailment. Causing someone else to use their action to hit, which is inexcusable, of course. But what was the reaction to the speech? Shows us the power of the speech. You know, someone once came to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe he was visiting from another city, and the Rebbe asked him about what's going on in that city. There was an issue, there was friction. And he says, Rebbe, I don't want to talk, I don't want to speak. And he quoted what the Talmud says. The Talmud says that if for every time you speak, you get a coin. For every time you keep quiet, you get 2 coins. And he was trying to emphasize that. He said, listen, I don't want to speak. And the Rebbe looked at him and the Rebbe smiled. And the Rebbe says, when you speak, when you're quiet, you get 2 coins once. But when you speak, you get a coin every time. What was the Rebbe trying to tell him? What the Rebbe was telling him was like this. When it comes to negative speech, it's better to be quiet. And for being quiet, you get, so to speak, a double reward. But when it comes to speech, when your speech could have a positive action, a positive impact, something that brings together unity, joy, and solves problem, then who gives you the right to be quiet? You need to speak up. You can't be quiet. You can't be neutral. That's the power of words. Whatever the case is, what happens with Will Smith and Chris Rock, I think it's a lesson for all of us. Be careful in the words you choose. Don't insult. The Torah tells us the worst thing is hamal b'pnei chaverei barabim. If you insult someone in public, it tells us the Torah, you have no portion in the world to come. That's how powerful words are. Be careful with what you speak. And of course, be careful with your action. You can't control what someone else says or does, but you could always control your reaction. And Torah tells us that we have the power to control the way we act, to have our mind over our heart. So yes, even if someone says the worst things, we never have an excuse to hit. We need to educate and teach people how to use their language in a positive way. And never to use the language to bully others. But we also have to teach people that our reactions are the only things we control, not the speech or action of others. God bless you. May we always use our speech to lift, to bring closer, and to be kind. Have a good day.